Welcome back to another episode of Trading Secrets. Today we are joined by luxury real estate agent and founder, CEO of The Agency, a billion-dollar real estate brokerage, Mauricio Umansky. Throughout his career, Mauricio has represented some of the world's most noteworthy properties, including, guys, literally buckle up for this list. It's the Playboy Mansion, the Walt Disney Estate, residence owned by the one and only Michael Jackson, Michael Jordan, Prince, Lady Gaga, and the first house in LA to sell above the $100 million mark. With a strong reputation in the industry and being featured on shows like The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, the agency has grown to over 50 offices and nearly 1,000 agents across North America, and recently started their own reality luxury real estate show called Buying Beverly Hills, which premiered in November. Today, we're going to go into a deep dive of the luxury real estate world, the various other business ventures Mauricio is involved with, and how life has changed after joining the reality TV world. Mauricio, thank you so much for being here today. We are so excited to have you.
Jason, it's a pleasure to be here, and with that introduction, I'm feeling really good about myself right now.
Good. Well, you should. I mean, you read that. I mean, the introduction's unbelievable, just based on what you've done, and the numbers of just the things that you've done are just crazy. And I'm looking at another number right now: $16 billion in sales in 2021. Is $16 billion the largest revenue generation you've ever had in the luxury real estate space?
Yeah, in residential real estate, that's kind of a number that just sounds a lot bigger, because the way that we measure is how much sales, total volume we've sold, but at the end of the day, what we really measure is how much commissions we've made, right?
I love that. Yeah, that's the large number, and then with a large number that high, if you're making a percentage of that, it's still pretty damn good.
It's not bad. But the other thing I can tell you is listening to is just I realize how fast we're growing, and we're opening up shops. Right now, we're opening up 2 shops a week, and we're actually up to 65 offices right now in 7 countries. Wow. And it's we're up to 1,600 agents, so it's just an absolute crazy growth. It's we can't even keep up with our own numbers.
2 shops a week. You're opening 2 offices a week. That is wild. Did you ever, when you hear these numbers, 16 billion, you've sold the largest, the first ever 100 million plus, 7 different countries. Was this all in the vision, or when you hear these numbers, are you like, damn, that happened faster than I expected?
So it's definitely happened faster than I expected, but I can tell you that it was definitely part of the vision.
Okay.
And even when we started the company 11 years ago, we planned on doing everything that we are doing. I manifested it. I made sure it happened. Every move was meant to happen. The business plan, I'm also very happy to and proud to say that we did a 5-year pro forma, 5-year projections business plan when we started the agency. And through those 5 years, it was unbelievable. We were literally hitting the numbers within like 3-4% every single year. It was just one of those things that we would look back at the business plan, and we were like, how do we keep how do we project 5 years out and actually hit that?
We are magicians.
It's amazing. It was just one of those incredible things, but really proud to say that happened.
Okay, so many people, especially now, you see it probably oversaturated market of real estate agents, and there's so many people that are trying to create their own brokerages and open up new shops, and some of them do okay, some of them start and fail, but no one is moving at the speed you're moving. What has differentiated you to do what you've done in a market in which so many people are doing it?
Yeah, I think, when I started in the business, I started selling real estate 26 years ago. And I always took advantage of recessions. I always say that I actually made my moves and my money during the recession. I capitalized during the growth periods. And that's when I actually put the money in the bank account. But during the recession was when I made the moves. That's when I gained market share. That's when I made acquisitions. Like I remember the first time, first of all, let me just go way back to the beginning, if you don't mind for 1 second.
Of course.
Back in the day when I started,
we'll edit it out.
Back in the day when I started selling real estate, I remember I did my first deal. Year 1, I made $183,000, and I looked at myself and I said, I'm never going to have a lesser year the next year than the previous year. And that was just one of those things that I just made a promise to myself. Then I started saying, okay, I need to do 1 deal a month, and if I do 1 deal a month, I can survive. I can start paying for my family, for food, for rent, for all of those type of things. And then from one deal a month, then I grew that to 2 deals a month. And then I grew, I just kept always pushing and pushing and growing. I started at the end of one recession. So that was first. I'm now entering the fourth. I'm calling it a recession. Some people call it a regression. Some people aren't willing to admit it's going to be a recession yet, but let's see what that really looks like. But going into my second one was really a critical point. And I remember going into that second recession, and I remember a lesson that my grandfather always taught me, which was when everybody's buying, you sell. When everybody's selling, you buy. Right? And don't be the smartest guy in the room. You don't need to sell at the highest point. You don't need to buy at the lowest point. Just buy low, sell high. Right? Simple, end of story. So we go into the recession, everybody's pulling back, and I'm just pulling my hair, and I'm like, oh man, if I just had some money right now where I could buy condos, where I could buy multifamily, I would be so happy. And I just don't have any money. I don't have borrowing power. I don't have any of that. But I did have, funny enough, I'm opening up the LA Times, and at that time, believe it or not, the real estate industry was still very much paper driven. Okay. And so we actually looked at the LA Times. We actually flipped the pages and all that stuff. I mean, that doesn't happen today. Today's a different world. But I opened up the LA Times, and I realized that the LA Times went from 80 pages, 100 pages to 6 pages. Okay. And I said, well, I don't have any money to buy real estate right now, but I can buy the LA Times. And so I called up the LA Times, and I made a contract for a year, and I bought 10 pages. I cut a really good deal. I don't even remember, but I cut a really good deal for the 1 year thing. And so all of a sudden you started opening up the LA Times, and it looked like I was the only guy doing business while everybody else was doing nothing. I was sitting there doing business, right? And so the perception became, well, if I want to sell my house, I got to call Mauricio. Yeah. Who is this guy Mauricio, right? Nobody really knew me at that time. But that grew. I gained a tremendous amount of market share. I had an amazing year. I decided to submit my numbers into the Wall Street Journal Real Trends numbers that measures, at what level you are in terms of the realtor, on a national basis in the entire country. And much to my surprise, it came back that I was number one in the country, number one in California and number 7 in the country. And so that's when I made that big push, right? And then I just continued, and then I wanted to be number 1, right? I never got to number 1. I got to number 3 in the country. I was number 1 in California for many, many years, but I got to number 3 in the country. And then I said, well, what I'm doing and what I've done, it's teachable and it's repeatable, right? Which is what's important, for your podcast. It's like, what can I teach? What can I repeat? And it's systems that actually work, and it's people that can actually make a lot of money. It's not a me secret. It's not something that is only, to me that I can make something, right? So that's when I decided to actually change my mentality and say, okay, I'm done chasing number 1. I now want to build a brokerage. Okay. And that was kind of the beginning of building my own business, building the agency, building the brokerage. And it was just a lot of fun, doing that. And I remember picking up the phone and I called up the number 1 real estate agent. His name is Ben Caballero. He's out of Texas. He's been the number 1 real estate agent in forever. You just can't beat him. He's unbelievable. And I picked up the phone and I called him and I said, hey, Ben, it's Mauricio. He goes, who are you? And I go, I'm just the guy that just wants to talk to the number 1 guy. I've been chasing you for years. I'm never going to catch you. I'm done chasing you, but I just wanted to say hi to you.
Hey, what did he say back?
He was laughing. He loves to tell the story now because
I was going to say, Ben certainly knows who Mauricio is today.
Mauricio is today, yeah. But it was just one of those great moments where I just, he's like, who the heck are you, right?
Yeah. Okay. I have a million questions about all the stuff you just said. I think it's so cool how you differentiated what you did, and even submitting your numbers to the Wall Street Journal. That whole process in itself fascinates me. But I want to get back to, you said the first year that you were in real estate, $183K. That's how much it was. Did you have any type of? Because a lot of people say that people in real estate, they must have had a mom or dad or a cousin or sister. They're in real estate, so they helped them out. Did you have any type of background that helped launch that quickly for year 1?
Well, Well, one of the key things is that you need to have a good sphere of influence. And I did grow up in Los Angeles. I went to schools in Los Angeles. I knew a lot of friends. So I have a lot of friends. I have a big sphere of influence. I had a lot of people to call. Funny enough, one of my first clients was actually my wife's ex-husband.
Okay.
And I think he did my second deal. My first client was my doctor. And he gave me an opportunity to sell his condo on the Wilshire corridor. My wife's ex-husband gave me an opportunity to sell his condo, his house in Brentwood. And but you really have to start working your sphere of influence. It's so difficult. You know, these shows have glamorized real estate, $1 million listing, Buying Beverly Hills, Selling Sunset. They've glamorized real estate, and a lot of people enter into the real estate. They want to get into real estate brokerage, and they just think it's going to be easy. You snap your fingers, and you make a sale, right? It's not easy. And one of the things that I tell everybody getting into real estate is you need to have either a second job, a rich parent, right? Or some money in the bank. Because the reality is, and I've noticed this, it takes people about 18 months to actually start being able to sustain themselves through their career. And it's 18 months of hard work, building your brand, getting people to believe that you're actually in the business, because it's not easy to get the business. There's so many sharks out there. There's so many amazing real estate agents out there. And you know, for most people, for most consumers, their house is probably the most important asset they have.
Yep.
And so they're not going to give it just to anybody, right?
Yep.
And so you got to build that reputation, that brand. And so one of the things that I can tell you, you know, if you're a new real estate agent wanting to get into the business, that a lot of people have been doing is about 5 years ago, the team concept started to happen, right? And now we have teams, we have mega teams, we have all kinds of sales teams, and what they do is they have the ability to deliver leads. And so, you know, a really good way to start is to go find yourself a team that can deliver leads to you, because the hardest thing to get is the lead. You're going to pay a large percentage of your commission to the brokerage house, to the team, but you're going to gain validity. You're going to gain experience, and as you do that and as you build yourself, now you have the opportunity to start, you know, you're in the business, and now you can start, you know, building your own business, building your own brand, getting people to believe that you are an expert in your industry.
I think that's really good advice. Really good advice that a lot of people can replicate, because 2022 is a lot different than your first year. What year was that? Your first year you made the 180K?
Oh, that's a great question. I'm going to. I think it was somewhere around 1996 or 1997.
Okay, 1996. Let's call it 1996, 1997. Before, so then 11 years you were on your own before you started your own brokerage. Is that what you said?
Yeah, plus or minus, I guess. And then,
Okay.
I mean, our brokerage has been around now for 11 years. So probably on my own a little longer than that.
Okay,
probably
a little
about
longer
15
than that.
years, yeah.
You made the goal to yourself. I'm making 183K. I'm going to do whatever it takes to make anything but that moving forward. What was your income like in those years moving forward? Like when you think about like your I don't know, like on average, and like your height, doing it by yourself, no one else, not the 65 different offices. What did it look like?
Yeah, my goal was always to reach $1 million.
Okay.
And to me, $1 million like gave me a good lifestyle. Like that was my, you know, dream. I reached $1 million of revenue probably about 10 years into my career. And once I hit $1 million, it's kind of funny. Once you start hitting certain numbers, it actually starts becoming easier to get business, right?
Why?
It's getting that. Well, as I said, you now have a brand.
And the reputation. Yep.
You're selling. You've got signs all over the city.
Sphere of influence.
Open house all over the city. Clientele starts repeating clientele. They start referring business. Consumers want to go with the person that's selling, right? So it's all of a sudden it just starts parlaying on itself, and it starts snowballing relatively fast.
Okay, but how do you go from the 183K to the $1 million, which is unbelievable, right? Especially in 2007-ish, $1 million then is like, 1.5 now, all great. But how do you take that next level where all of a sudden you're repping Michael Jackson and Prince and Lady Gaga? How do you even crack into that stratosphere?
Well, that's a great question. One of the things that I always did is I had I'll tell a great story. I had a client who actually gave me my first job. His name was George Santopietro. He used to be married to Vanna White. He was married to Linda Evans before that. He gave me my first job delivering pizzas when I was actually 15 years old. He didn't know I was 15. He thought I was 16.
He thought it was legal.
He thought it was legal. I'm not sure if he knows that yet, but now he does. And he gave me my first job, and I stayed in touch with him. I delivered pizzas for him. He owned restaurants. I then worked for him as on the summers as a busboy, as a waiter. I did all kinds of different things just to, in the summers just to make some money. But when I got into real estate, I picked up the phone and I called him for advice. I called everybody that I knew, for different advice. And one of the things he told me, there was 2 lessons. One of the lesson from him and another lesson from somebody else. But what George told me, he says, the amount of work you do for a $1 million house is the same amount of work that you do for a $10 million house. It just happens to have a couple of extra zeros in it, right? And your commissions are going to have a couple of extra zeros. And so I kind of just always started chasing the luxury. I never said I'm going to work my way up. When I was selling textiles and I was selling clothing, I started a clothing line for my father back in with my father back in 1992-ish, plus or minus 94. And I had a sales rep that also taught me a really good lesson. I really wanted, back in the day, believe it or not, the best department store to sell was JC Penney. Okay, that was we don't even know what JC Penney is.
I was going to
anymore,
say,
right?
broke.
What is JC Penney, right? But that was the best department store to sell.
Yeah.
And in order to sell JC Penney, you had to have a vendor number.
Okay.
Otherwise, they didn't let you in there.
Gotcha.
And the salesperson said to me, he goes, Mauricio, if you want to get something done, you start from God and you work your way down. Okay, don't work your way up. Most people, they call the receptionist, they call the assistant, they call somebody and they say, hey, can you get me in, and et cetera, et cetera. He told me that. I picked up the phone. I called the CEO of JCPenney, the largest company in the country at the time, a fashion company.
Yeah.
And I picked up the phone. I got him on the phone and I said, hey, I'm Mauricio. I've got this line. It's crushing it in all the local boutiques. I really want to come down. I want to fly down. I want to see you. He gave me an appointment. I flew down. I went to go see him. I showed him my line. He loved my line. He said, wait for me. I waited for about 3 or 4 hours. He organized a meeting with all of the buyers. I got a vendor number on the spot, and all of a sudden I was selling JCPenney.
That's an unbelievable
so I worked my
story.
Way from God down,
Yeah.
right? And so that I did the same thing with real estate. I never said I got to sell a $500,000 house in order to sell a $1 million house. I have to sell a $2 million house in order to sell a $5 million house. I just always went right in and I just chased the luxury. I chased the 10s. At that time, 10 was the big number.
Sure.
Today, we've got 20s and 50s and 100s and all that kind of stuff, and the money's changed. But back when I started, 10 million was the number. Like that was the big, that was the $100 million number.
Yeah. Okay. So people are going to hear that story, and I know what the jaws dropped. They're like, "Holy shit, that's unbelievable, unbelievable." How do I? And the next thing you're going to say is, "How do I replicate it?" And they're going to listen to your story, and they're going to be going through the little steps. And the first step you said, I called they're going to get lost right there. I called the CEO of JCPenney. Okay. How do you do that? How did you get what is your process to getting a hold of the CEO at JCPenney? What is your process of getting hold to Lady Gaga or Michael Jackson or Prince, the people that are the hardest people in the world to get a hold to because the whole world is trying to get a hold of them?
Yeah, well, that's kind of the hard part, right? Is like, how do you position yourself to be there?
Sure.
And different stories. Obviously, getting the phone number for the CEO of JCPenney wasn't hard. Back in those days, we used to have books of all of the vendors, and it listed everybody's phone number. I don't even remember if we had emails back then, but maybe. But it listed everybody's phone number, and it literally was just there, and it was listed, and it said the name, and I literally just picked up the phone and called. And I called and I called and I called until I finally got until I finally got him on the phone and I got the appointment. In reference to real estate, again, I grew up here in Los Angeles. I've had a really good sphere of influence. I've had some really good friends. I got my first opportunity and my first start from one of my best friends who was developing a house in Beverly Park. Beverly Park is an amazing neighborhood in Los Angeles, and he gave me a shot. He gave me a shot as a co-listing agent, and together, my co-listing agent was one of the best real estate agents in the city at the time. And she was upset that this rookie was going to get in on the deal and I wasn't going to do anything, and I wasn't, and she was going to do all the work and she was going to have to split her commission with me. And I went in there and I worked my ass off. And rather than her being upset about me not doing anything, I actually did everything. I held the house open, I did everything, and I crushed it, and I actually sold the house. And so it was all of a sudden it was me.
You're pissed that you're displaying
my commission, with her, which I was never pissed because it gave me a shot, right?
Yeah.
But I was in a neighborhood where the rich and wealthy were looking.
Yeah.
And then it just becomes I always tell people that once you're in front of somebody, that's your opportunity, that's your appointment. One of the things that everybody thinks about is that they go and they cold call. They get somebody on the phone. Cold calling's great, but they get somebody on the phone and what they're trying to do and what they're trying to accomplish is get a meeting with the person on the phone. And what I tell my real estate agents and everybody that works for me is once you get them on the phone, that's your meeting.
That's a meeting.
Like, be prepared for that meeting.
Yeah.
Don't go into that phone call and not be prepared. There was a real estate agent that worked for us, was about to quit, really literally about to quit. Came in so frustrated. He goes, Mauricio, I've been doing this for 2 years. I'm done. I cannot do good. And I said to him, I go, what are you doing? I go, what do you do to get your leads? What's going on? You're a great person. You're a great salesperson. Like, why are you not selling? And he says to me, I make something like 30 cold calls a day, 150 calls a week. I go, what do you do on those calls? He goes, well, I'm just rolling them. And I'm trying to get an appointment. I go, okay, do you know anything about the house or anything about the person that you're calling when you call, or are you just rolling so many calls that you just don't even have time? He goes, I'm just rolling so many calls that I don't even have time. So I said, I want you to do me a favor. I go, before you quit real estate, I want you to take that down and I want you to make 6 calls a day. Not 30 calls a day, but on those 6 calls, I want you to know what house you're calling. I want you to have an opinion on the house. Go drive by it, understand the neighborhood, understand the street, understand how it was marketed before, look at the photos, have an opinion on how the previous agent marketed the house. Now you're lucky enough to have social media. Go on LinkedIn, go on Facebook, go on Instagram, and learn something about the client you're calling. And rather than making 30 calls, be prepared for when that person answers the call to have knowledge and have an opinion, and that's your appointment. I said, do that for 30 days. If in 30 days you don't get any success, quit. Came back to me 30 days. He goes, Mauricio, I've got 3 listings. I have one in escrow, and today this gentleman is probably making close to $1 million a year.
Wow.
So
interesting.
You just got to be prepared for every situation. And so going back to your question, I built my career on open houses. And I held houses open Saturday, Sunday, Tuesday. That's what we do in real estate. Tuesday in Los Angeles is the day that we broker to our own agents.
Okay.
But on Saturday and Sunday, I held open. Most people only did Sunday. I did Saturday and Sunday. I would hold the open house, and I wouldn't just, I would walk into open houses, and the real estate agent was sitting on the sofa reading a book. Sign-in sheets at the kitchen. Let me know if you have any questions. I would walk into another open house, and it was a Sunday, and they were watching NFL football. Let me know if you have any questions, right? And so when I was sitting in open house, I was present. I was at the front door. I knew all the inventory. I had books on all the inventory. I got to know the people. I memorized everybody's name. So they came back a week later to another house, and when they were walking in, I would call them by their name. John, Mary, Joe. They were so impressed that I remembered their name from the previous week, right?
Yeah.
And that I was paying attention, and my competition was watching the game.
Yeah.
Right? So it's like all of a sudden you stand out. And when you're holding these big open houses, $5 million, $7 million, $10 million, the people that walk through them, even on a Sunday, are wealthy, important people.
Sure.
Okay? So now if you start doing that and you start showing them knowledge, you now become valuable to them. If you can become valuable to them and you have something of value, they now want to use you as your real estate agent, right? So all of a sudden you get the one celebrity client, and then you get the second celebrity client, and now you're in the game, and now the business manager starts referring you business. Because why? Because you crushed it for the business manager. You made the business manager look good. Right. And the only thing the business manager wants to do is that when they refer somebody, one of their clients to you, they want to make sure they look good.
That's it.
Like, that's all they care about.
Don't screw up, and you made them look good for the referral. 100%.
If you make them look good, good, you look good, you're going to win business forever and ever. So that parlays into just a whole bunch of different things and fun stuff. Lady Gaga is a great story. Michael Jackson's a great story. Michael Jackson actually grew up with my wife. Michael Jackson taught my wife how to moonwalk on a pool table down in Encino when they were kids.
That's so cool.
So there was a little bit of family connection with Michael. But Lady Gaga was a fan of Kyle's, of the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. She asked Kyle to do a music video. She did a music video up at Hearst Castle. We were going to Vegas. Lady Gaga was doing a concert. Kyle reached out and said, hey, we're going to be in Vegas. Can we go to the concert? We went to the concert. Right before the end of the concert, Lady Gaga's people grabbed us and they took us into the dressing room. We went into the dressing room, and Lady Gaga turns to me, and she already knew I was in real estate. Like, she was clearly like knowledgeable. She's like, so Mauricio, I love real estate. I've never bought anything in my life. Like, talk to me. And I'm like, well, what do you mean you've never bought anything? Like, you're Lady Gaga. What are you talking about, right? And I'm in the dressing room. She's like sweaty. She's coming off stage, and she goes, "Yeah, I'm going to be in Los Angeles." I go, "Well, what do you want to buy?"
Yeah.
And she describes it. What she wants to buy. She goes, "I don't want. I want paparazzi proof. I want chickens, horses, pigs. I want a farm, right? Love to be near the ocean, et cetera, et cetera." And I literally say to her, I only know one house for you. And I grab my phone, I pull up the house, I show it to her. Never asked her what price she wanted to pay. I never asked her what budget she was at. I just said, I know the house that you're describing. Mm-hmm. She starts flipping through the photos, and she goes, this thing's good. She goes, I'm going to be in Los Angeles tomorrow. Do you think we can go see it? And I said, well, I'm leaving to Europe tomorrow, but I've got your back. I'll have you picked up. Let me call the agent. Let me take you there. She went there, fell in love with the house, and bought the house.
Stop. That quick? Like,
that
just
quick.
Come on.
That quick.
Holy
So I
smokes.
always say to everybody in the business that selling real estate is really about matchmaking.
Yeah.
And so I go back to being prepared. When you're prepared and you know your market and you know your inventory and you know what's selling and you know what's off the market and you know everything, when you're in front of somebody, you can create it. What most real estate agents do, and that's the reason they're not as successful in any field, is they say, let me get your email, let me do some research, and let me email you some listings.
You've already lost me. You get
Bye-bye.
right. You know how many? I can look right now. 63,891 emails. Like, there's so many emails. Like, gone. My attention's gone.
And you didn't bring value.
Yep,
You're just
exactly.
like any other person that's willing to, my first ad in real estate, I didn't have anything to advertise. I didn't have a house. I didn't have anything. I grabbed my shoe. I put it on the newspaper. I took out a full-page ad, and it was the bottom of my shoe. And I said, the mark of a great real estate agent. And it was literally my shoe print, okay? And I said, it's not somebody that can just manipulate a mouse and send you listings. It's somebody that can read between the lines, listen to you, and matchmake. And I got one call. I got a call. I got a listing. I sold it, okay? All of a sudden, I had a listing to show, to advertise.
Yep.
No longer my shoe print, right? So it's all about just being the most knowledgeable, bringing value in any industry that you're in. You need to know your industry like the back of your hand. Like, that's the most important thing.
And even in that example, if you did not have that listing ready to go and you said, Lady Gaga, I'll send you a listing, or I'll send it to your man, no shot you get the deal, right?
Never get
you're
the
going
deal.
to Europe, she's got her next deal. I mean, but for you to know that right off the top of your head, that's not being like it's just not pushing papers or checking the box. You have to really be ingrained to be able to instantly listen to someone and connect and move and show on the spot. That's a master of their work.
It's matchmaking.
Yeah.
That's really what you're doing. I always tell everybody in real estate, what you're doing is matchmaking.
Yeah.
And the more inventory you have in your head,
Yep.
and the better you are at listening,
Yep.
you're going to be able to process it and matchmake the deal.
Brilliant. I got a million more questions for you, but before I pass on the Lady Gaga thing, you said something I know people at home are probably like, huh? She said paparazzi proof. So obviously that's so paparazzi can't get in the house. But what is, like, A home that is paparazzi proof, what does that mean?
Well, it really just means that a paparazzi can't take a photo of your backyard from anywhere in the house.
So there's
right?
like
You've got
gates,
some privacy,
space.
you've got
Okay,
gates,
okay.
you got like
Got it.
nobody, these celebrities, they don't want to be walking around in their pool
And get sniped
and
by
get
someone.
sniped,
Yeah,
right? Like,
totally
I mean,
get that.
nobody wants that.
Yeah.
So that's to me, that's paparazzi.
And you probably know paparazzi proof all day in and out with the people you're working. How dare me saying, how does Mauricio differentiate? Because the answer is every fucking thing he does. All right, let's get into this. You said something about recessions that I think was really important. That's where you made your money. That's where you got aggressive. That's where you were taught to get aggressive. Again, you alluded to the fact today, recession, not recession, we're in a bad spot. Call it whatever the hell you want. By definition,
we're calling it a regression right now.
A regression,
So
whatever the hell.
we're not in a recession yet,
Yeah.
but it's a regression for now.
Whatever people want to call it, it's not pretty, right? It's not good. So people at home, and a lot of listeners here, right? They're not selling or buying a $10 million home, but they have real estate. What is your play right now, given the recession? Do you get aggressive? Do you make plays? Do you step into the buying power you might have, like you said one day you didn't? What's your tips and tricks for those people?
I think there's starting to be some really great buying opportunities. Me, myself, individually, apart from being a broker, as an individual, I'm starting to look at some more buying opportunities. So I'm starting to get excited about that, despite the fact that the interest rates are high right now. One of the things that you have to understand about interest rates is that they might be high, but when they go down, you can refinance, right? So to me, it's more about the buy than it is about the interest rate right now. If it goes down in 6 months, I refinance in 6 months. If it goes down in 2 years, I refinance in 2 years. It's relatively unimportant as long as I can afford the payment.
Sure,
right?
sure.
Or the investment property I'm buying can cover the payment.
Got it.
Right?
That makes sense.
So I'm really looking at opportunistic deals. Right now, there's a lot of people hurting, and there's great opportunities to start becoming a buyer again.
Okay.
If you have cash in the bank and you want to be an investor and you want to buy real estate, right now is a good time. If you just wanting to buy your house, right now is a good time. There's actually some choices, right? For the past 3 years, you tried to buy a house and you were in a battle with 50
people, 50.
30 people,
Yeah.
5 people, whatever that looks like. It depends. You saw in Beverly Hills, we have one scene where we put a property on the market. We had 24 offers on it or 22 offers on it. And Beverly Hills, I think it was a $6.5 million house. So those are big numbers, right? I mean, we're not talking about the 50s and the hundreds. But right now, there's opportunities to go and buy your dream home. And a lot of people are scared, again, because of the interest rates. But if you're buying a long-term home and it is your dream home, don't be scared. Again, don't overextend where you can't afford it and you lose it.
Yeah.
But you can always refinance out to a better interest rate.
Okay, that's a good point. Those interest rates, right? 30-year mortgage, and you're still looking at what's going to happen in 6 months, and we don't know. So you can refinance. One thing you said, and I'm glad you said it, he said, if you're sitting on cash. I talk to a lot of people, they are sitting on cash. They don't know what to do. They put it in the market, they're getting their ass kicked. They keep it in cash, they're losing for inflation. You also mentioned the fact that we already talked about it, you didn't have the buying power early on your days that you wish you did. If someone does have cash, and they do have some buying power, are you saying right now, get that money in some form of real estate, commercial, residential?
I think real estate is a great hedge against inflation. It always has been. It's going back to the basics, and there's some good buying opportunities. So it's really just about searching, getting yourself a good advisor, a good real estate agent.
Yep.
The problem is it's not easy to find a good real estate agent because a lot of real estate agents, they just care about their commission, so they're actually not advising you properly. And so you got to get yourself a good advisor. I call ourselves real estate advisors, not real estate agents, because that's really the key. So get yourself a good advisor, find some good property, fix something up. Right now we believe that for argument's sakes that the markets will start getting better. There's a lot of people that think that the housing market will improve Q4 of 2023. There's a lot of people that think it might take into like mid of 2024. We don't have a crystal ball, but somewhere around there it's going to start improving. History has always said that. That it is what it is, right? We all know that it's going to improve.
Right.
Okay?
Yep.
So you got to buy when it's down. And, if you're buying a spec house, something that you're going to remodel, something you're going to do something with like that, it's going to take you 12 to 18 months to get it back on the market.
Yeah.
You're going to buy it today, you got to fix it up, you got to build it from scratch. It might take you 24 to 36 months. So you're actually going to be putting it back into the market when the market's improving.
Right.
If you happen to be done with the house before the market's improving, you can lease it out and wait it out.
Interesting.
Okay.
Yeah,
so
that's a good point.
There's some good buying opportunities right now, and it's starting. So I think there's going to be good buying opportunities now for the next 6-7 months. There's going to be some great buying opportunities.
Okay, there you go. Next 6 to 7 months, that's coming from the expert with 65 offices in 7 different countries. All right, let's go about this. Negotiating fees. You got a shark. A lot of people you're working with are sharks. If they can afford a $25+ million home, I'm at least assuming they're a shark. Are they ever trying to negotiate your fee? And if so, how do you personally handle that?
Yeah, I don't negotiate fees. Period. End of story. If you want to hire, my knee was hurting the other day. I needed a surgery, and I looked for the best doctor. I didn't look for my discount doctor. Okay, I didn't go online and say, which doctor can repair my knee for the least amount of money. I actually went and looked for the best darn doctor on the planet. Okay, and my knee's pretty darn good right now. I'm really glad I did that. But I can tell you, I've been on the opposite side of multiple discount brokers, and I can tell you that 100% of the times, every single time, the buyer or the seller that was represented by the discount broker got screwed.
Interesting.
I won the deal, and I made my client a lot more money than saving 1 or 2%.
So there's nothing you like more than going up against a discount broker.
It's not that I like it. It's just that they just don't. They just don't know the business, and they don't understand it. They don't ask for the right things. They don't protect their client properly. They're literally there just to push paper, and the client doesn't really care because all the client cares about is a discount. So it's actually looking at the wrong perception. It's like, do you care about the dollars in your pocket, or do you care about the discount?
Interesting. Okay. That's good advice from Mauricio. Mauricio, I got to ask you this before we move on to some of your other projects. The biggest deal you've ever done and the dollars that came in from it. What is the largest piece of real estate you ever sold, and what'd you make off that?
Well, I sold 2 properties in the $130 million range.
What does a $130 million property look like? Is it a castle?
They're big. They're awesome. I've got NDAs.
Okay,
and,
sure.
I can't tell you.
Yeah.
But and you do the calculations. It's I don't discount my commissions. I can tell you that when you get into those numbers, the non-discounted commissions around 4%. You're usually sharing it with the other side.
Got it.
So you do the numbers.
You do the math at home, and if you can't do the math, we'll do it in the recap. Come find us. We'll be talking about that. All right, you got a new book that's coming out. I think if anybody's listening to this right now, they want more of you. So you're writing a book, The Real Deal. Comes out April 11th. You can get it on Amazon, Google Play, etc. Give the people back home a tease as to why they should buy the pre-sale right now.
So it's a really exciting book. All these stories that you're hearing today, there's so many of them. And really the way that I approached it is I want to teach people, and I want to give lessons to people that I have learned over my life, whether it has to do with my relationship with my wife, my relationship with my kids as a father, a boss at the agency, or just doing deals. But I do it all through memoirs and through storytelling. So I'll tell you a story about Prince. I'll tell you a story about Michael Jackson. I'll tell you a story about Lady Gaga. I'll tell you a story about Kelsey Grammer. And through those stories that I'm telling you, or my experiences, I took something away. I learned something. And that's what I wanted to put into my memoirs and into my book. And so it's really interesting. It's a really good read. I wanted to make it so that it was a read for everybody. Somebody without a high school diploma could actually read it, understand it, take stuff away from it. My goal is if you can take one important thing away from it and improve your life, I'm a happy man. And if you take 3 or 4, I'm a really happy man. And I think that we definitely deliver on it.
Perfect. There you go. Guys, you've heard some of the stories already. The Lady Gaga one sold me, so go get The Real Deal. April 11th it comes out, but you can get pre-sale now. But let's transition into Buying Beverly Hills, reality TV. If you haven't done enough in your life, which is pretty fucking steep, you then get into reality TV. Buying Beverly Hills premiered in November. You already alluded to $1 Million Listing you've mentioned. You've mentioned Selling Sunset in a couple comments. How does this show differentiate from competing shows like Selling Sunset, like $1 Million Listing? What is different about it?
Yeah, Buying Beverly Hills is currently streaming still on Netflix, so you can watch it on Netflix. Pick that up. But the way it differentiates is that, well, first of all, amazing real estate porn, just gorgeous houses. We're the first show to put $100+ million house on the show. So you're going to see some beautiful design, a beautiful real estate. You're going to see some drama amongst the cast, but the primary thing that I think is the differentiator is that just like the book, there's lessons to learn. So as you're getting entertained, you're also learning things. Okay. And one of the things that we do is we follow young professionals, and in terms of their growth, in are they going to make it or are they not going to make it at the agency? What does it take to make it at the agency? What does it take to be the next $1 million agent? Like, what does it take to make $1 million? And we watch them. We watch the young professionals succeed. We watch them fail. We watch their mistakes. We learn from their mistakes. We learn from their successes. We sit there and we teach them. So it's really exciting. It's real. It's very refreshing. One of the best things that happens to me right now is I get stopped in the street, or I get a comment on Instagram, and my favorite thing is, like, I watched your show, so good, super entertaining, but it really taught me some good lessons. And when I hear that, I glow.
That's it.
That's my glow. That's my North Star on that. And I think there's that opportunity on this show.
Okay, pretty cool. With that show, is that also a pretty material income opportunity, or does it not even touch the money that's made in real estate?
It doesn't even touch the money that's made in real estate.
So it's more of a play on education, inspiration, and entertainment, but also, would you say it's a
marketing play?
That was what,
for sure.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's an impression marketing play. And it's only, just premiered in November. You guys go stream it right now. But have you seen any type of like marketing returns on it yet? Have you seen some benefit from that?
Without question, I think a lot of people like it. We're seeing, we're growing in franchises. The agency sells franchises, and so I think the show has brought a lot more brand awareness, and I think that we're starting to see some more franchises sold. People that real estate agents that have been thinking about working at the agency are now watching and can actually see the culture of the agency, which is something that we always talk about. But talking about it, listening about it, and actually seeing it are two completely different things. And so we've seen a lot of real estate agents want to join the agency. We don't allow anybody to join. This is not a big, if you have a pulse, you join. We're very selective. We're people first. We do our growth through our global partners by people first, not about the market. It's not about, I need to be in Austin. It's like, I found a great person in Austin, and now do I like